Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Monday, April 15th, 2019, 6:37 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we're going to look at CO2 today and then do some earthquakes. And I've got co2.earth pulled up here. And it's where you can see what the daily CO2 count for the world is. And as of yesterday, the CO2 count was 414.56 parts per million. And in March, it was 411.97 parts per million. In March of 2018, it was 409.25 parts per million. They say they don't have any data for April the 14th for 2018. So, for whatever reason. And here, this is from the Mauna Loa Observatory, which is in Hawaii. As of yesterday, the count was 414.56 parts per million. This is according to NOAA. ESRL. Here's daily records by year. Highest ever daily average CO2. This is as of yesterday. This is from Mauna Loa. For this year, the highest reading was 414.84 ppm on March 18th. And for script, that was from NOAA. Scripts for the same day read it as 414.78 ppm. And then the next lowest is from yesterday, 414.46 ppm from NOAA. Then before that was 414.27 ppm on February 9th. And 414.12 ppm on February 28th, 414.10 p.m. on April the 13th. Now in May of last year was the highest reading for last year. May 14th was 412.60 parts per million according to Scripps. And I looked through this website a little bit, and the highest months for carbon dioxide seem to be May and June. So we're heading into the highest month, and considering we've already broken the record back in March, so I have no clue what it's going to be in May. Because it's only April 15th right now. April 13th of 2015, it was 404.84 parts per million. So it's gone up 10 parts per million just since 2015. We can see it looking at CAMS, and their latest data is from Saturday, April 13th. They kind of run, carbon dioxide and methane kind of run along the same schedule with them. So I've got global view pulled up for Saturday the 13th in total column, and this is what it looks like all over the planet. And the scale down here, in this highest number, or highest color, this darkest brown, which we do see pretty close to that up here in Colombia in South America, and then over here over China, that reading is about 420 to 1,000 parts per million, somewhere in that range. So we do see the highest readings over the northern hemisphere, but we are seeing it coming on down, spreading down in South America through Brazil here. And it kind of follows the methane readings. Now here's methane from yesterday, and this is total column, and it's the globe, and we can see that the highest readings here are down here in Brazil and over here in China and a little bit on the northeast part of India. So this is total columns, so it kind of relates to carbon dioxide, but it's, you know, it's just different levels throughout the layers of the atmosphere. And if you start coming down through the layers, like 850 HPA, or going up through the layers, that's what it looks like. Let's look at surface level. Here's surface level. So the highest readings are down here in South America and parts of Africa, and also over here in the south in the United States. Looks like Alabama and the Tennessee area. So that's surface level, and then some high readings over here in China. But then as it goes up and disperses through the atmosphere, we looked at 850, it starts really spreading out. Here's 500 HPA. That's about halfway up in the atmosphere. So we can see a definite demarcation in the lighter color down here. These cream colors are anywhere between 406 to about 410 parts per million. But then when you start getting into these darker cream colors, you start going up. So at 500 millibars, it looks really heavy over the northern hemisphere. And then when you go up a little higher, 300 HPA, it spreads out more. Then here it is at 50 HPA. It's very high up in the atmosphere, and we can see it gathers around around the equator lines in the very high regions. So it just depends on what level as to the concentration, but it's bad all the way up. And then total column is the reading all the way up through it. So there's that. So I'm going to leave this as a backdrop. Yeah, we just don't look at carbon dioxide very often, but it's good to check it and see where we're at. And now let's go on over to earthquakes. Where are my earthquakes? Here we go. It's been very active. I took a snapshot of when it was 309 earthquakes worldwide, a little after 1 o'clock this afternoon. And now it's 356 worldwide over here on USGS for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours. And of those, 38 are 2.5 magnitude and higher. So this shows that there are numerous small earthquakes that are happening, and you can see them. And so the difference from 356 and 38, so most of those are going to be up here in Alaska and down through the United States. Down through here is what we're going to be spending some time on today. So let's get started. This 2.5 near Ferndale is coming off the map soon at 7:37, 2.6 here. But I'll be done with my report by then. So let's start down here in South America. We're seeing on this red line a 4.7 off the coast of Central America. This came in at 5:47 this afternoon. And these times are Pacific time because that's my time zone. There was a 4.5 near Barranca, Peru at 8:11 last night, 141 kilometers deep. Here's a 4.6 off the coast of Villanar, Chile at 5:54 this afternoon, 34 kilometers deep. Next, in the Atlantic Ocean, here was one 4.9 on the northern mid-Atlantic ridge, right on the red line at 10:15 last night. Coming on down here in Indonesia, here was a 5.3, well, Solomon Islands near Kira-Kira at 4:52 this afternoon, 35 kilometers deep. It was in the ocean, so that probably didn't cause any damage. Whenever it's in the ocean, the water will buffer it so that it won't be as destructive unless there's a landslide or something underneath. Here's a 4.3 magnitude near Abepura, Indonesia. This came in last night at 9:49 p.m., 48 kilometers deep. Next, here's a 4.6 near Lamba, Indonesia. This came in at 11:49 last night, 113 kilometers deep. Let's come on up here to Japan. Here's one on land of 4.5 near Yamagata-shi, Japan at 7:30 this morning, 100 kilometers deep. I wanted to talk to y'all about reading reports and things like that and articles, because I've been seeing stuff being posted on Facebook. I saw like one article today that said, what was it, 7.0 magnitude earthquake hits Japan, and 2 days after this 6 point something and all the destruction, it had a picture and everything, and they had posted it in one of the groups I belong to like it just happened. And so I clicked on the article, and it was from 2016, and so they didn't even look at the article to see that it wasn't even current. So, and then someone else posted something about the Notre Dame fire today, and it was about the article was about a car that was found parked outside the Notre Dame Cathedral with gasoline tanks in there and and documents in Arabic writing, and it was suspicious, and police were investigating, and they were going to get a bomb squad and everything. And so the implication was that this was connected to the fire that happened today. And I clicked on the article, and it was from 2016. So, you know, before you post an article, you really need to see what year it was from, because what Facebook is doing, they will just put things up in your news feed that you don't know where they came from, and it looks like it's relevant to the news that's going on, and you don't know unless you click on the article and look at the date. And so that's the very first thing I do now before I post anything, is I click on the article and I look at the date. And if it's 2016, you know, I'm not posting it unless I say, now this is from 2016 and it's relevant today or whatever. But that's just a little heads up to everybody. And it's just another way for fear mongering and getting people all riled up, and a confusion of the truth, because we're trying to find the truth, and you know, this is just confusion. And you know, why even post that article if it's not even relevant? So I just get upset when I see stuff like that. So it's just a heads up to people who are on Facebook or anywhere else who are doing any kind of reporting. Look at the date. Get the date first before you do anything else, because that's good reporting. Otherwise, it's not very good reporting, and it's misleading. And then if you're corrected on it, then you need to acknowledge, yes, I was wrong. You need to openly, you know, acknowledge, yeah, that was the wrong thing, and take it down, or post something saying, no, I didn't realize it. It's getting dark out there. It's getting darker every day, and so hard to discern, and so hard to stay on the straight and narrow, and so hard to keep holy company. And you know, it's better to be alone than to be with the wrong person or the wrong group. Seriously. Because at least if you're alone, and if you're attuned with God and Jesus, and you've got the Holy Spirit indwelling in you, you can be guided to inwardly know the truth, and be guided to find the answers. But if you don't have that, and you're in with this group, this herd mentality, I tell you, the whole herd will just go over the cliff. And it was from something that was posted 3 years ago. They're running over the cliff. It's crazy. I got that off my chest. That was weighing on me. Okay, so up here on the Kamchatka Peninsula was a 4.6 near Ozerov Ski Russia. This came in at 10:32 last night, 141 kilometers deep. While we're here, let's look at this one. This is part of the Russia reporting stations. A 4.0. This is at the end of the Aleutian Islands. This is near Nikolskoye, Russia, at 12:48 this morning. And now over here on land, here's a 4.4 near Sarpol, Zahab, Iran, at 11:34 last night. Next is a 3.1 near Toy Garli, Turkey, at 1:10 this afternoon. And here's one middle of Turkey, a 4.5 near Yazihan at 9:41 last night. So those are the international ones. So now let's go to 2.5 magnitude and higher and start with Hawaii. Remember we had a 5.3 right up here yesterday. Hopefully it's calmed down a little bit. There were 20 something here yesterday. We're seeing 7 here today. I'll call them off. 1.8. That's at Kilauea. 1.9 on the flank of Kilauea. This was at a minus 0.1 kilometer depth. 1.9 at Kilauea again. 2.1 Waikoloa. That's where they had them yesterday. 1.7 on the flank of Kilauea. 1.9 Pahala. 1.9 Mauna Loa. And that one is at a minus 1.5 kilometer depth, meaning it's up in the chamber. And now Dominican Republic. We're showing 7 here today. I'll just call them off. 2.5, 2.7, 2.7, 2.7, 2.3, 2.8, and 3.1. Now those were not big enough to cause any damage, but it's definitely showing movement. Now let's go on up to Alaska. Looks awfully busy up here today. Of course, it's Monday and the earthquake makers are back at work. We're showing 107 here for all magnitudes. Let's see how many of those are 2.5 and higher. Of those, 9 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. We're going to start down here. 3.0 Chignik Lake. 3.3 Chirikov Island. 3.0 Larsen Bay. 3.0 Homer. 3.7 Yakataga. 3.1 Willow. 2.6 Talkeetna. 2.7 Cantwell. And 2.7 Koptovik. So let's get a closer look at some of these. Here at Kobuk, we're seeing 15 here today. So it's still clustering here. And still a lot of them are at 0 depth or very close to the surface. Mainly in the 1s range. Here's a 2.2. That looks like that's the highest one. And here's some more up here in northern Alaska. 1.4 Koptovik, 1.6, and 1.6. And here was that 2.7. Here's a smaller one. 1.2 Coldfoot. And then we can see them just coming down and just spreading out as it's just moving out. The pressure is just moving out and around and coming on down this Cook Inlet. Let's look at Anchorage. It's got more here today. In the viewing area, there's 46 here today. So those small ones are definitely coming back into forefront. Now let's come down to the lower 48. We're going to start over here with this 2.4 near Quinton, Oklahoma at 9:34 this morning. Next, here in Utah, we've got 4 We've got 1.7 Bluffdale, 1.3 Eagle Mountain, 2.0 East Carbon City at a minus 3.5 kilometer depth, and 1.7 same place at a minus 3.4 kilometer depth. So that was up in the mountain, pretty high up. Now let's look at Yellowstone. We're only seeing 2 in the Yellowstone region, up 3 counting Challis, Idaho. We've got a 1.8 Challis, Idaho, 2.4 Lincoln, Montana, and a 0.4 Three Forks, Montana. Now coming on up into the Pacific Northwest, we've got some explosions. We've got one up here in Canada, a 2.4 magnitude explosion near Princeton, Canada at 2:08 this afternoon at a minus 0.2 kilometer depth. And here's a 2.0 magnitude explosion near Ritzville, Washington at 3:42 this afternoon at a minus 0.5 kilometer depth. And a 1.7 magnitude explosion near Port Ludlow, Washington at 11:43 this morning at a minus 0.4 kilometer depth. And a 1.5 magnitude explosion near Kelso, Washington at 1:14 this afternoon at a 0.7 kilometer depth. So let's look at the real-time tremor map. So all of those were explosions. So here's the tremor map, 3 in the last hour, 3 hours. In the last 24 hours, we've got a whole crap load right here to the northwest of Portland and to the southwest of Mount St. Helens, which is right about here. And so what we're seeing, so there was this explosion here at 1:14. So that probably added to some of those tremors. Well, most of them were before that. This is local time. 4 hours of tremoring. You know, last night I was watching, it got up to 8.2 hours of tremoring. It was flipping me out. Okay, of note, we have 3 here right on the line on this Juan de Fuca plate. We have a 2.8 at 12:37 this afternoon, 2.7 at 10:58 last night, and this is at a negative depth at a minus 0.2 kilometers depth. I don't know how that could happen with it being in the ocean. And a 2.6 that happened at 7:37 last night, 20 kilometers deep. Then here's another quarry blast, a 1.6 magnitude quarry blast near Shasta Lake, California at 10:35 this morning at a minus 0.8 kilometer depth. And so this is near Mount Shasta. And then here's an earthquake that came in a 1.0 last night near Shingletown at 11:23 last night. Now coming on over into Nevada, here's a 0.6 near Cold Springs. Here's a 0.7 to the west of Pyramid Lake. That one happened at 1:25 this morning. Lake Tahoe is clear. Northern Nevada is clear. We've got one down here at Walker Lake. Here's a 0.5. They're calling it near Hawthorne. So we're seeing some clusters down here at Hawthorne again. Here's a 1.2 and so forth. And seeing some small ones coming here. 1.9 Current. 0.7 Warm Springs, and so on. So here through southern Nevada, it does not surprise me to see some small ones down here. Now let's follow this east side of California. Here's a 1.2 near Gardnerville, Nevada, but it's in California. Here's a 0.4 Bridgeport, 1.8 Lee Vining. Okay, now here we have Mammoth Lakes, and look at that. Oh my God, 54. Well, let's get these done first. But we've got an episode happening down here to the west of Bishop. Okay, showing 56, including this episode down here. So I'm just going to go around 0.3. 0.3, those are at Mammoth Lakes. 0.8, Tom's Place. And a 1.7, Round Valley. So these are all down here considered. They're calling it at Round Valley or West Bishop, California. So here's a 2.7. That's one of the larger ones. This came in at 6:09 tonight. So let's look at these. These started at 5:11 this morning, starting with a 1.6, then a 2.5 at 5:20, 1.3 at 5:52, and so on. Here's a 2.9. So anytime you get above 2s, I'm thinking that's pretty significant. I'm not seeing a negative depth on any of these. Here's a 3.4. That's a higher magnitude. They're in the 7 to 9 range of kilometers depth. Here's a 2.0. Here's another 2.0. And the rest are 1s and under. Here's a 2.1, 2.7. So we're going to keep an eye on that. This is Highway 395 that comes up through California and comes up into Nevada, and so it's right near the highway. So it's this cluster right here. So how many did we say? 53. That's freaky. That's very freaky. And this is part of that Long Valley caldera, which is a supervolcano. So let's come on down. Here's a 1.4 Olancha, 0.6 Coso Junction. Here's a 0.4 Little Lake. Here's a 1.5 Arvin. Here's a 2.1 Pine Mountain Club at 0 depth. Here's a 1.8 magnitude quarry blast near Boren at 4:36 this afternoon, 0.3 kilometers deep. And we're coming down into Southern California, and we're seeing 35 on the map here today, so that's coming up a little bit. So we're seeing some clusters. Here's Kauai, and here's this area to the right of Kauai. So we got 12 in this area today. Let's see what's 2.5 magnitude and higher down here. There was a 3.0 near Anza. That's near Kauai. Anza. I'm not finding it now. It's probably oh, it's over to the right. It was in that cluster to the right over here. Over here. It's in this cluster. Here it is. 3.0 at 8:21 this morning. Here's a 1.2 Los Alamos. We saw that one. Now let's come up this San Andreas fault line. It's a 0.9 Pinnacles, 2.2 Tres Pinos. Here's some activity on this Hayward fault. Here's a 0.9 Alum Rock, 0.6 Black Hawk. Here's one in the ocean, 1.2 near San Francisco Zoo. It's in the ocean right there. Here's one to the north of the bay, a 1.0 Black Point Green Point. And then at the geysers here today, we've got 80. So this is getting up there. This is probably the highest I've seen on the geysers. 80. That's pretty scary. So let's see. I think there was a larger one here. 4.1 was here as part of the geysers here today. That came in at 4:54 this morning. So that's in the big mix of all that cluster of 80. Right there. So we've shown this, and Dutch Sense shows this all the time, that the geysers, this is an old volcano that they drilled into as part of a geothermal pumping operation for heat and for electricity and heat. And so when they do that, it creates weak points. And so when the magma starts moving and the other plates start shifting, it goes to the weak points and causes more earthquakes. And remember, little ones lead to bigger ones. That's what we've seen. And I've been very out of it today, and I couldn't sleep last night. Then when I finally got to sleep, I slept until 10 o'clock this morning, which is really late for me. So I'm all off my schedule, and it just feels weird. Everything just feels weird to me today. So I'm sure I'm picking up on all these earthquakes too. Very unsettling. Ozerov, Greece. Here's a new one. This one came in at 6:04. They put it on the map while I was doing the report. It's in the ocean. 4.3 near Muzaka, Greece at 6:04 tonight. They're sneaky like that. They'll sneak them on there and not put them as red. That's why I look back through here to make sure I've got them. So I think that's a wrap for today. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off and try and get grounded here. So I think time is really short, and if you haven't done so, now would be a good time to get right with God and Jesus. Get your spiritual houses in order while you still have time. Check out my Subscribe page, and I'm posting over there every day. I do a lot of public posts, and I do some private posts for my members. And if you'd like to support my work, you can support it for $5 a month by becoming a member over on Subscribe, and the links are in the description below. So until next time, God bless, go in peace, and good night.